If you woke up this morning and saw a headline saying that the United States has suspended immigrant visa processing for 75 countries indefinitely, you're probably feeling confused, anxious, maybe even terrified about what this means for you or someone you love. I understand that fear, and I want you to take a breath because in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what's happening, what's not happening, and most importantly, what this actually means for real people trying to navigate the immigration system. My name is James, and you're watching Immigration News Today, where we cut through the noise, the rumors, and the panic to bring you fact-based immigration updates that you can actually trust. No exaggeration, no clickbait, just the truth about what's really going on in the world of immigration. So let's talk about this 75-country visa suspension that's causing so much alarm across social media right now. The first thing I need to tell you is that yes, this is real, but the way it's being presented online is causing unnecessary panic because most people don't understand what's actually being suspended, who it affects, and what the legal and procedural context is behind this decision. Here's what we know from official sources. The United States Department of State has indeed suspended certain immigrant visa processing operations in approximately 75 countries. This suspension is not a new immigration ban, it's not a travel ban in the traditional sense, and it's not affecting every single type of visa or every person from these countries. What we're looking at is a temporary operational pause in consular processing for specific visa categories. And understanding the difference between those details is absolutely critical before you start making decisions or spreading information that might not be accurate. The suspension primarily affects diversity visa lottery winners and certain family-based immigrant visa applicants who are waiting for their consular interviews abroad. This means if you're someone who won the diversity visa lottery and you were scheduled for an interview at a U.S. embassy or consulate in one of these 75 countries, that interview has likely been postponed indefinitely. If you're a family-based immigrant visa applicant waiting for an interview appointment in one of these locations, you're also directly impacted by this suspension. Now let me be very clear about what this does not affect. This suspension does not apply to non-immigrant visas like tourist visas, student visas, or work visas such as H-1B or L-1. If you're planning to travel to the United States on a visitor visa or you're a student with a valid F-1 visa, this suspension is not about you. If you're already in the United States on a valid visa or if you're a green card holder, this does not change your status. If you're applying for adjustment of status inside the United States through USCIS, this consular processing suspension does not directly affect your case because you're not going through a U.S. embassy abroad. Let me also address one of the biggest sources of confusion right now. People are asking if this is a Muslim ban, if this is targeting specific ethnic or religious groups, or if this is some kind of discriminatory policy aimed at certain regions of the world. Based on the information available from official government sources, this suspension appears to be an administrative and operational decision related to staffing shortages, security review processes, and resource allocation at U.S. embassies and consulates around the world. The 75 countries affected are spread across multiple continents, including parts of Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe, Central America, and the Caribbean. This is not a ban based on religion or ethnicity. It's a pause in processing capacity at specific consular posts. The U.S. State Department has indicated that this suspension is necessary due to a combination of factors including diplomatic staffing challenges, increased security vetting requirements, backlogs from the pandemic era that were never fully resolved, and budget constraints that limit the number of consular officers available to conduct visa interviews. In many of these 75 countries, U.S. embassies are operating with reduced staff, outdated infrastructure, or in locations where security concerns require additional time and resources for each visa application. Now I know what you're thinking. If this is just about staffing and resources, why use the word indefinitely? Why not give people a timeline or a clear date when processing will resume? This is where we need to understand how government language works. When the State Department says indefinitely, it doesn't mean forever. It means they cannot provide a specific end date right now because the factors causing the suspension, like hiring more consular staff or completing infrastructure upgrades, don't have fixed timelines. Indefinitely in government speak means until further notice, not permanently. That said, I'm not here to sugarcoat this. If you are one of the people directly affected by this suspension, this is incredibly frustrating and deeply unfair. You followed all the rules, you waited your turn, you prepared your documents, and now you're being told to wait even longer with no clear timeline. That anger and frustration is completely valid. What I want to make sure is that you're angry at the right things and that you understand your options rather than falling into despair or making panicked decisions based on incomplete information. Let me walk you through what this actually looks like on the ground. If you're a diversity visa lottery winner from one of these 75 countries, you already know that DV visas are time-sensitive. They expire at the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th. If your interview was scheduled before this suspension and it gets postponed past that deadline, you could lose your opportunity entirely unless the State Department extends the validity period or creates an exception process. Right now, we do not have confirmation that such extensions will be granted, and that's the part that's causing the most legitimate concern. If you're a family-based immigrant visa applicant, your situation is somewhat different because family preference visas don't have the same strict fiscal year deadline as diversity visas. However, you're still stuck in limbo, and if you've already paid fees, completed medical exams, or made travel arrangements, you're out that money and time with no guarantee of when you'll be rescheduled. So what should you do if you're directly affected? First, do not abandon your case. Do not assume your visa is gone forever. Do not make major life decisions like selling property or quitting your job until you have official communication from the U.S. Embassy or consulate handling your case. Check your email regularly, monitor the specific embassy website for your country, and if you have an immigration attorney or an accredited representative helping you, stay in close contact with them. Second, document everything. Keep copies of all your correspondence, your appointment notices, your payment receipts, and any communication you receive from the embassy. If this suspension is eventually challenged in court, or if exceptions are granted, having a complete record of your case will be essential. Third, consider reaching out to your U.S. congressional representative if you have family members who are U.S. citizens or green card holders. Congressional offices have constituent services teams that can sometimes make inquiries on behalf of people stuck in administrative delays. They can't override policy, but they can sometimes get answers or flag cases that have been stuck for unreasonable periods. Fourth, watch for official announcements from the U.S. State Department. The Bureau of Consular Affairs publishes updates on their website and through their social media channels. If exceptions are created, if processing resumes, or if there are changes to the list of affected countries, that's where the information will appear first. Do not rely on Facebook groups, WhatsApp forwards, or YouTube comments for updates. Go directly to the source. Now let me address some of the rumors and misinformation I've already seen spreading online in just the past few days since this news broke. Rumor number 1. This is a permanent shutdown of immigration from these countries. False. There is no evidence that this is a permanent policy. It's a suspension of processing, not a closure of the immigration pathway itself. Rumor number 2. If you're from one of these countries, you can never immigrate to the United States. Also false. What's suspended is consular processing at specific embassies. If you're already in the United States and eligible to adjust status, or if you're able to process your case at a different consular post in a third country where you have legal residency or strong ties, those options may still be available depending on your specific situation. Rumor number 3. This affects everyone trying to come to the United States from these countries. Not accurate. As I explained earlier, non-immigrant visas are not part of this suspension. Tourism, business travel, student visas, and temporary work visas are still being processed at most of these posts. though there may be separate delays unrelated to this specific suspension. Rumor number 4, you should pay someone to get you transferred to a different embassy or to expedite your case. Be extremely careful here. There are no legitimate shortcuts, and anyone promising you a guaranteed transfer or a backdoor process for a fee is likely running a scam. Only work with licensed attorneys or accredited representatives and verify their credentials through the American Immigration Lawyers Association or the Department of Justice's list of recognized organizations. Let me also take a moment to explain why consular processing works the way it does, because I think a lot of the confusion comes from people not understanding the system itself. When you apply for an immigrant visa, meaning a visa that allows you to live permanently in the United States, there are 2 main stages. First, USCIS in the United States approves your petition. If you're a family-based applicant, your U.S. citizen or green card holder relative files a petition for you. If you're a diversity visa winner, the lottery selection is your initial approval. Once that petition is approved and a visa number becomes available based on the priority date system, your case transfers to the National Visa Center, which collects your documents and fees. Then, the National Visa Center forwards your case to the U.S. Embassy or consulate in your home country or country of residence. And that's where you have your in-person interview. The suspension we're talking about is happening at that final stage, the consular interview stage. The embassies in these 75 countries are saying we cannot conduct these interviews right now. That doesn't mean your petition was denied. It doesn't mean you're no longer eligible. It means the physical infrastructure and staffing to complete the final step is not available at this time. This is also why it's not accurate to call this a visa ban in the traditional sense. A ban would mean a legal prohibition on granting visas to people from certain countries. What we have here is an operational suspension, which is a very different thing legally and practically. It's frustrating, it's disruptive, and it absolutely needs to be addressed by the State Department, but it's not the same as a policy decision to exclude people based on nationality. Now, some of you are probably wondering if this could be challenged in court. That's a complicated question. Generally speaking, the executive branch has very broad authority over consular operations and visa processing abroad. Courts have historically been reluctant to interfere with how embassies allocate resources or manage their workload. However, if this suspension results in people losing their diversity visa opportunities through no fault of their own, there could be arguments for due process violations or for compelling the government to extend deadlines. We've seen similar lawsuits in the past when pandemic-related closures threatened to eliminate DV lottery winners' chances. Some of those cases resulted in settlements or extensions. It's too early to know if that will happen here, but it's something to monitor. I also want to talk about the human impact of this decision because behind every case number and every visa application is a real person with a real life. There are families who have been separated for years, waiting for this process to be completed. There are people who sold everything they own to prepare for their move to the United States. There are parents who are trying to reunite with their children, spouses trying to reunite with their partners, and individuals who won a literal lottery for a chance at a new life and are now watching that chance slip away. The frustration and heartbreak are real, and they matter. If you're someone watching this video who is not directly affected, I want to ask you to have empathy for those who are. Immigration is not an abstract policy debate. It's about human beings trying to build better lives. And when systems fail or when bureaucracies create unnecessary obstacles, real people suffer real consequences. At the same time, if you are directly affected, I want to remind you that you are not alone. There are advocacy organizations, legal aid groups, and communities of people going through the exact same thing who can offer support, information, and solidarity. Organizations like the American Immigration Lawyers Association, the International Rescue Committee, and various diaspora community organizations often have resources and can connect you with accurate information and sometimes even pro bono legal help. Let me also say something about the broader context here. The U.S. immigration system has been underfunded and understaffed for years. Consular posts around the world have been dealing with backlogs that were made worse by the COVID-19 pandemic, when embassies shut down for months and interviews were canceled by the hundreds of thousands. Even after reopening, many posts never returned to full capacity. On top of that, Congress has not provided adequate funding to hire and train enough consular officers to meet the demand. The result is exactly what we're seeing now, a system that's breaking under its own weight and leaving real people trapped in administrative limbo. This is not a defense of the suspension. It's an explanation. And the explanation matters because if we don't understand the root causes, we can't push for the right solutions. The solution here is not to panic or to blame immigrants or to call for shutting down immigration entirely. The solution is to fund the State Department properly, to hire more consular staff, to modernize the technology systems that embassies use, and to create more flexibility in how and where people can complete their visa interviews. Some countries allow third country processing, where you can interview at an embassy in a country where you don't live if you meet certain criteria. Expanding that option could help some people affected by this suspension. Some cases could potentially be transferred to embassies in neighboring countries that aren't experiencing the same staffing shortages. These are the kinds of practical solutions that need to be explored rather than just leaving people stuck with no options. Now, as we start to wrap up, I want to leave you with a few key takeaways. Number one, this suspension is real and it's serious, but it's not a permanent ban, and it doesn't affect every type of visa or every person trying to come to the United States. Number two, if you're directly affected, don't panic, but do stay informed and keep your case active. Number three, ignore rumors and verify everything through official sources like the U.S. State Department or your specific embassy's website. Number four, if you need help, seek it from licensed professionals, not from scammers promising shortcuts. And finally, remember that immigration systems, as frustrating as they are made up of rules and procedures that can be changed, challenged, and improved. Nothing about this is set in stone forever. Advocacy matters, public pressure matters, and sometimes legal action matters. Stay engaged, stay informed, and don't give up. I know this is a difficult and uncertain time for a lot of people watching this video. I wish I had better news or a clear timeline to give you, but what I can give you is the truth, the facts as we know them right now, and the reassurance that you deserve accurate information instead of fear-mongering or false hope. If this video helped you understand what's really going on, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates. Immigration policy can change quickly, and when it does, this channel will break it down for you in the same calm, factual way. Share this video with anyone you know who might be affected or who's confused about what this suspension actually means. And please leave your questions in the comments below. I read every single one, and your questions help me know what topics to cover next. Thank you for trusting Immigration News Today as your source for immigration updates without the panic and without the rumors. I'm James, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay informed, stay calm, and take care of yourself.